Hello and welcome to the latest Ask Alex. I am so excited to have a guest to our blog today. This is Dalton DeLima, and he is a regional manager for leisure care. He oversees a number of communities, and I was just really curious to chat with him and have his feedback and knowledge about what a regional can do at this time, at this crazy time of COVID. So welcome, Dalton.
Hello, thank you. Hi.
Hey, hey, good to see you. Uh,
Yes.
Look, you have a really big job. I'm very curious to find out, number one, and I know we'll talk about a little bit more on the blog post and you'll answer some great questions. But from your perspective, what is your focus right now on your strategy in terms of leading sales teams through this time?
Yeah, absolutely. The strategy and the focus right now is truly connection. And I would say and speak to that on both sides. So it's connection for our teams to their prospects and connection for us to our teams. And so our, our pure simple strategy is really looking at in conversations within our own and with teams is how can we do our work but through the lens right now of purpose, strategy, intent, and adaptability is really kind of the four key focuses of where we're looking through our work. Through our day to day as best as we can in our situation that we're all in right now. So, um, if we're all kind of modeling that. And so it's just talking through all of that and how do we do that? What does that look like? And how do we measure that?
So how
And
do you, if you wouldn't mind sort of breaking it down, purpose and intent means.
yeah, so purpose and intent is when we do our home visits and our creative follow-ups and our daily sales meetings and those types of things. What is the purpose and intent of sitting down and talking about those prospects that we're working with and who's kind of on our watch list for the day, right? And so let's take that time. Let's go slow to go fast here for a minute. Let's break it down. What do we know about these people? What is our relationship? What do we don't know about these people? What's the area of opportunity to engage in success? And in terms of success being cultivating the trust of the relationship, making advances, doing purposeful, intentional home visits, doing purposeful and intentional creative follow ups, having purposeful and intentional conversations via phone, via Zoom, whatever it may be. Really breaking it down and saying, okay, let's pump the brake, let's evaluate, and let's challenge through that lens of purpose, intent, strategy, and adaptability.
That's awesome. So what are you measuring to gauge the success or the progress of this cultivation and trust building?
Absolutely. So each conversation with our teams is really a focus in the time in the selling zone. Not to discredit, because I truly think that our advisors and our communities are true heroes in any sense of the word, right? So really looking at the time in the selling zone. Upon that, if we kind of break that down, where are we spending that time? And then let's take that another step further and say, what are we doing in terms of not just the quantity of our benchmarks, what's the quality of that? So you've shown in telling me that your team's done 100 phone calls this last 2 weeks. Tell me about what are the 5 or 10 best phone calls that you've had. Help me identify those best practices of cultivating the relationship, building the trust, having purpose, having intention, adaptability, and some strategy behind that.
That's
Help
so
me.
cool. That's so cool that you say that. Sorry to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
that's raising awareness from the advisor about what made
Yes.
that particular phone call good, and inevitably I think they will identify the ones in which
Yeah.
they had the longer connection, the better connection, the more engagement, where they learned more when they were able to create an advance, and that just sort of reinforces that same behavior that they can translate to their next phone call. That doesn't have to be 20 phone calls. It has to be quality phone calls that are
Yes.
deeply engaged. And then so lastly, I was wondering about how do you manage the stress that people are feeling now in terms of all these uncontrollable unknowns?
Yeah. So, going back to the controllable and uncontrollable, nobody likes the uncertainty aspect of it. I think we're speaking freely creatures of habit, and we like to know what's going to happen when and whatnot, right? That crystal ball logic. But as heard before, we have to have very fluid logic right now. And so how we're working and managing some of the stresses, you know, at the end of the day, the numbers and those things take care of themselves if we put the prospect and the people first. So we really have to dig into that, not just from our advisors working with prospects, but how we are also engaging with our advisors and our teams. We have to check in. We have to make sure that they're doing okay.
You're
You know,
modeling, so in other
yeah,
words, you're modeling the behavior that you're expecting from them. And
yes,
it's brilliant because I think many people believe that the regional role is to look at reports, to figure out what they've been doing, to just gather data from
oh,
them, extract
yes,
them rather than give them. So I love
yeah,
sort of flipping to truly stay close and nurture and coach and help people become advisors through this really, really stressful time for sure.
absolutely. And that's kind of the key takeaway, right? Is I never use the data and the reports as the focus, right? That's framework. That's a tool. That's just telling us how good we're doing at something and what are the areas of opportunity that we can engage in. How can we get better? And it's a critical standpoint, but purely what you've just mentioned, it's a coaching standpoint, it's a modeling standpoint. How do we ensure and keep cultivating the relationship with our teams and advisors? Essentially, we want to teach them to fish. I don't want to use the data and let's say give the man the fish and eat for a day. Let's look at it and knowing that it's live, it's fluid, it's continual, and to have that dialogue and that relationship with all of us, to allow that for them to have that with our prospects too.
And from your perspective, what is the one thing, if there's one thing, that is a barrier from your advisor's point of view to cultivating trust?
Yeah, I think the largest barrier, and maybe it's not even a barrier, but it's what we miss as far as the reason why we're in this industry and in a sales role is that person to person connection, right? And so, I think a lot of us are functioning from that rather than we speak to a lot, turning into the skid and going along with our prospects on into their skid. It's the same kind of concept with the advisors. It's what are your obstacles? Well, we have to wait till COVID's gone, or we don't want to move until it's safe. And you know, we have a lot of great best practices and policy and things in place, but it's not about the process first. It's about the people. So the process comes after we've worked through that decision, right? We have to build through and navigate and help our prospects get to that point where they're ready to make that transition. That
Mm.
other half of the other side of things, that's just a part of it, and that's the very last part of it. What's most important is really truly building and dialing in on those relationships, with our prospects and even amongst with each other.
And the hardest part is to go there because we feel comfortable with the sort of the latter part, the closing, the showing
Yep.
the community,
Yeah.
but it is very vulnerable and uncomfortable to just sort of let go of the result and really sort of dig in and cultivate this understanding, this deeper knowledge of our prospects, so that then they can sort of self-persuade into a decision, which will ultimately benefit everyone. Um,
Right.
so it's that slow it down,
Yep. Slow down to go fast. Yeah,
and take
absolutely.
your intention as I'm not here, I'm not the person to give you the tour and get the check from you. I'm a
Yeah.
sales professional. I'm somebody that understands that this decision pre-COVID, during COVID, and post-COVID is always emotional and difficult. And there's going to be a lot of steps along the way, and I will not give up. I will stay with you as long as you allow me,
Yeah.
guide you so that you can come to the best possible decision. Um,
Yes.
and I think that COVID has given us this opportunity to really hone those skills. So congrats to you for doing that with your teams, and we're here to help. So thank you
Uh,
so much, Dalton,
you're very welcome.
for
Thank you.
your willingness and your courage to share. And thanks again. I really appreciate it.